There comes a moment when you've exhausted all your options while simultaneously coming across a product that reinvents your notion about what an honest and high-quality company looks like. The Healing Rose was the catalyst to that very moment for me. The Healing Rose Company is a female-owned Massachusetts CBD company based out of Newburyport that prides themselves in using only the best USDA-certified organically sourced ingredients for their vast line of therapeutic products. Their line stretches from lip balms, tinctures, skin balms, roll-on oils, and bath products. Their transparency places them above the rest with third-party tested results showcasing their intolerance to toxic pesticides, solvents, metals, and harmful elements. They provide full-spectrum CBD in many of their products, excluding their tinctures, which carry a broad spectrum profile, ideal for not having to worry about any low-level THC, which is common for many CBD products. That one's my favorite, and it's good on the palate. Full spectrum means that they extract from the hemp plant an array of different therapeutic cannabinoids along with CBD and their profile terpenes. The combination results in a greater outcome of healing and relaxation for any individual's needs. Whether you are an athlete looking for any recovery advantage, a patient in need of some relief to remind yourself that you are still a warrior, or someone who sees the frontiers of life with a little reserve and want to calm the mental storms that keep you from personally exploring, the Healing Rose CBD Company is here for your full body and mind optimization. Please visit thehealingroseco.com to explore their diverse line of products and support one of New England's best rising stars in an industry where ethics are fundamental, and a company like this will only be found sitting at the throne of it all. Use the code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit thehealingroseco.com and use the promo code SAGAS at checkout for 10% off your purchase. To the many martial artists, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and thinkers, how often, for your own sake, would you love a symbolic reminder of your mentality and the perfect dichotomy to match? Murder Nerd is an independent clothing apparel line that represents the sharp, relentless focus towards personal growth and athletics. It embodies the vitality of their creative owners and the network of people who run on the same frequency. Why not elevate your frequency in comfort and style? Visit www.murdernerdsfitness.com for their personal line of shirt and hat wear. Enter the promo code SAGAS, S-A-G-A-S, for 10% off your purchase. Again, visit murdernerdfitness.com and enter the promo code SAGAS for 10% off your purchase. Bonjour, bonjour, mon ami. Welcome back. All right, here we go. So where we at? This is part 2. Where'd we leave off? Okay. Be forewarned. This one's a little heavy, and I hope I can timeline all of this pretty decently. And there is a small possibility that there might be a part 3 to this, but we'll see how this goes. Alright, so the music journey, the self-identification process. So I'm in my early 20s. I'm, at least 7-8 years into playing music. And this is all just singing, right? This is all just kind of like writing lyrics. I don't sing, I just scream, right? No formal training, just like give me the mic and I'm going to express myself. And I'm going to just mimic my icons. And we continue to do this. Band members change a little bit here and there, but there was a solid foundation in this band, and we got more serious. We started playing more, we started going out further, we got a lot tighter, This is kind of I would describe, for me, I would describe Pin Scorch as kind of a, jeez, God, it bounced around from a lot of different things, really. You know, it flirted with some Deftones stuff for a little while, and then it turned into like Maiden-esque thrash prog stuff, which by the end of it was my favorite. You know, there were some songs near the end that we never recorded, but I would give anything to hear those songs, because everybody in that band was just running on all cylinders. Those guys were incredibly talented, and most of the guys in that band went off to do great things. But at some point, it just had to end. You know, just disagreements and you know, when you're in a band for that long, my God, it's like it really feels like you're losing a family member, because you're just so emotionally connected to everybody in it and the work you put into it. And then the selfish part of like, well, what do I do now? You know? And it branched off, and it turned into kind of two different camps. And those two camps made incredible music separately. Everybody stayed friends. Everybody still loved each other. But we just ended up luckily, we still ended up making music. And then eventually, those camps broke up yet again. And the one that I was in, you know, when we stopped, it kind of sent a shock of urgency to me. Like, I need to take this into my own hands. And what I mean by that is, like, I can't just continue looking for a band to be in, because all I did was scream. And it's not all that I did. And what I mean by that is, like, and I won't get into this whole thing, but there's a lot of technique in screaming and doing it right and finding the voice that you want that accommodates and pushes the music that you're trying to put it over. Because screaming, you can do it, you can hurt your throat, you can do it wrong, you can come off just like really annoying in my mind. And a lot of that just comes down to the power and technique. And just at the end of it, I felt like it was really clicking after all those years. I felt like I was on the verge of kind of being undeniable. I felt really good. But I needed to take it into my own hands, so I needed to pick up an instrument. So we break up, time passes, I decide to get an acoustic guitar. I get the acoustic guitar, and I buy a bunch of books, and I practice, and I practice, and I practice. I bought recording equipment, I bought my first electrical guitar, everything used, hooked it up to my laptop, I figured out the software. And in my head, I loved songwriting. I was never someone who just sat there and went through scales. So my process was, I didn't even want to cover songs. I wanted to learn how to play guitar by writing guitar music. And I don't know if that's the right way to go about it, but that was just my process. And I just practiced and just fantasized about starting my own project where I was the primary writer. But I needed to get to a level of, I needed to be efficient at it. And I practiced at least on an average of about maybe 4.5 to 5 hours. Every night. Work night, I would go to bed by midnight, 1 o'clock. Every night. And I just grinded it out no matter where I was, no matter what I was doing. I used to bring my guitar to work to just practice on lunch break. And I would barely eat my lunch. All for the goal of getting ready to record little demos and then hopefully finding people to play with. You know, and as much as I was practicing, I was making a lot of headway. I was doing pretty good with just how quickly I was advancing with it. And, but a lot of insecurity grew in me while still trying to figure this out, because all my friends were just so talented. They were all so good. So that was the bar that kind of I had as the benchmark to getting to. I needed to be there. And and it was a struggle combating getting this good, feeling insecure around my closest friends. Now I have this new thing flooding my head, wrestling with, do I ask them to get into another project with someone who's not as good as them? I don't know what to do. I might need to find totally new people. And then never mind having a relationship, right? The wife I'm with now, I met when we were 16. So I'm trying to do all of this and selfishly pursue a passion while trying to be a dedicated boyfriend, right? To someone who really deserved one. And there were a lot of moments where there was just a lot of neglect in that. And that was a heavy thing throughout this whole period. Between mid-teens into almost my late 20s was just, how do I maintain this relationship while doing this? So so I practice, and I finally get good enough to make some demos, and I decide I'm going to try out for music school. And lo and behold, I actually got in. I got into a school way out in St. Paul, Minnesota. Beautiful city. Full of art, full of music, full of just good experiences. And it was a ways away. And I was already 23 maybe. So I was starting college late, but I just felt compelled to just constantly push towards what I wanted. And I had to move there, and still had a relationship that I had been in for 7 years, I'd say. That's a long time. And then have somebody you've been with for that long move, it's a weird scenario to contemplate, and a lot of judgment from outside circles, right? A lot of the traditional kind of, to me, ignorant thoughts of well, you've been together, why aren't you committing, all of this junk. But when you're that age, you should be allowed the license to explore and just go into the frontiers of whatever endeavor you want to go after. And you're still developing at that age too. So I leave home, I go. Great experience. I went for composition. I learned a ton about lyric writing and guitar playing and playing with other people. What kind of music I really, really wanted to play. What kind of, exploring my personality more. Luckily, I got to go to school with one of my best friends, and that was a great experience too, just having that kind of companion with you. And we lived with each other, and I loved it. And we shared a lot of different experiences out there. I got to gig out for the first time with an instrument. So that was the first kind of step into making that part of performing happen, get over the jitters of actually playing and singing at the same time in front of people. And I pulled it off. I think I did pretty good. People enjoyed it. The ensemble I was with really liked it. And I'd say about a year in, I get the news that kind of changed everything. I got the news that my stepfather had cancer. I remember exactly where I was. I got the news on the phone from my mom on the way out of my apartment to go see a friend of mine across the street at this little pub. And I just remember having this thought sizzle in my mind at that bar trying to enjoy myself. And I remember the weight that came onto me never went away. It stayed on me until he got so sick that, he passed away. It was lung cancer, right? He didn't just drink, he smoked. And both always at the same time. And that's a fucked up thing, obviously, is to have somebody in your family get sick. But now I'm trying to understand my role, his role, and the significance of our relationship. Because now he's sick. He's losing his hair. He stopped drinking. He wants to embrace life now, right? These are kind of the first steps that make everyone around a terminally ill person kind of get mad. Like, wait, you want to go to the movie theater? You've never been to the movie theater since I've known you. Right? This is a guy he's a shut-in, right? Never took my mom out really for just dinner dates, They never went out. Never mind a movie. He now wants to take me to the movies, take my mom to the movies. He wants to go out to dinner. But he's in so much pain that he just can't. So that's like salt on the wound type of stuff, And now I'm contemplating well, I love this guy. Now that I know he's not going to be here, I love him. And I don't think I've talked more or hugged him more my entire life than I did those that last 4 months, 5 months. And even before that, just to back up a little bit, it's funny how when you move out, right? I hopped around here and there, lived with a bunch of close friends, and then once in a while you'd come back and live at home. But when you move out, your relationship changes with your parents. There's an appreciation there. And it was just strange. It was just my presence in the house, whatever drove that annoyance, that's what the annoyance was. Because when I moved out, even before I took off for school, he would do favors for me. He would come by my apartment and say hi or just see what I needed. And he just was just that little bit more engaged when I would come home to just say hi. I'm like, oh, I just need to not be here. And I get that. I do understand that. Even in a healthy relationship, it's it does get better when you leave. The heart longs when it's away. And those ended up becoming very special moments. And I remember leaving my house, packing up all my stuff when I drove to Minnesota. And he was in tears. And he held on to that goodbye hug longer than ever before. And that might have been one of the first hugs I ever gave him. And it was such a shock to my system. that he was in tears. Something about me leaving made him either sad or proud or appreciative. I don't know what it was. But that was the first moment where I knew he did have love for me, and that I also realized that this man doesn't know how to express himself because he's so overwhelmed in this moment. And he doesn't know what to say. And I'll always remember that. You know, and I contemplate all these moments a lot. You know, and eventually it's, you know, we had to get the bed, the hospital bed, we had to put it in the living room. You know, and he's losing a lot of weight fast. And eventually he can't talk, you know. It's a brutal thing. To watch somebody who's sick, kind of on their last leg, you know. And you know, I would come and visit, I would say hi. And you know, all through this, I'm still writing music, and now it's all engineered around. It's all engineered around this moment, this lead up. I'm writing music that is the best I've ever written, and lyrically deals with themes of redemption and coming out of just your own toxic mental shell. And songs of hope, really. And all of it with this type of music that I just like to write, you know. It's going to sound stupid, but I've always enjoyed writing heavy music, but something about it has to be emotional to me. I need emotion. I need something that taps into some type of esoteric, spiritual vibe, whatever that is. And that's just always what I've enjoyed. I wanted an insightful, heavy music. And I wanted it to be honest, and that was what came out of me, was just dealing with the lead up. You know, and I think it might have been the day before he passed, but I remember coming to visit him. And he knew that I was there, and I was holding his hand. You know, just kind of watching TV with him, just hanging out, because he wasn't verbal by then. You know, and I remember trying to take my hand away, and he held on. So then I just kind of stayed there. I was like, all right. And it's like, I don't really like contemplating what he must have felt, but, you know, maybe it's as simple as, no, just stay a little bit longer, you know. But I know there was fear somewhere in that, because he didn't want to be alone, or that he wanted to show me affection still, when he couldn't really do it at all. And with whatever little energy he had, this is how he did it. And you know, and I stayed with him, and And then, the next day comes and, it just wasn't good. Like, they are a shell of what they were, it's looking into space and not being able to speak and not being able to eat. And I remember having to give him a medication, and he just wasn't strong enough to swallow it. And whether it was the medication or it was just his time, he grasped for air. And I don't know if he was choking on it or it was that time, but there's no reason to contemplate it. And he left. And I'll never forget, seconds before leaving, I was like, just go. Let's just hurry up. Because the moment it was done, I can't even describe it to you unless you've had this moment happen to you where it feels like a very physical, it's like a ghost comes out of you. And you're that much closer to feeling how you used to feel, just as a human. Because the news of death is just all-consuming. And the anticipation for it is just so compounding. And when it finally happens, there's a sense of liberation. It's off of you. You don't have to feel that. And it's almost the doorway into grieving. It has to happen so that things can now just flow. The resentment, the anger, the sadness, the tragedy. And that's what happened. And it was very hard for me. I mean, that's very hard for anybody, but there was, in my own experience, I had to resolve on my own the confusion of a person that did things to me and treated me in ways that didn't deserve my remorse, but in the end did just enough for me to enlighten me to the idea that I did love him. And I think I just got so angry. In this way of feeling betrayed. Like we could have all gotten something very different if hurt people didn't hurt people. And what I mean by that is, after he passed, I made it a choice to kind of understand maybe where he was coming from. And he was part of a big family, lots of brothers. There is always going to be a degree of neglect, in my mind, when you have, I'd say even more than 2 kids. I don't know. I know it's ignorant because I have 1. And if you think I'm wrong, good. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm not wrong, because one experience is one experience, and that doesn't tell the story of all experiences. Obviously. How do you keep track of 6 kids, 7 kids? You don't. Something's going to get left behind. And that something is like the attention that a kid needs. And then never mind if you're just not one who's willing to give attention, right? And if you're that kind of parent, you're just kind of putting one thing on top of another. And, these types of trauma, they give birth to an environment of addiction. And I think this is what happened to him. nowhere to go, no example of how to conduct or express your sense of self, and then also a degree of like manhood, how to conduct yourself as a man. And when you just look for a certain path to kind of figure that out or avoid what you're feeling, this is what you get. And then what do you end up passing on to your kid, whether it's your stepchild? That's what you pass on, right? A lack of knowing how. And the manifestation of that is what I got. And I felt for him. And before he passed away, the doctor said he was suffering severe depression. So there's a forgiveness in trying to understand where this man came from. The alcoholism, the depression, the neglect, the lack of relationship with his own mentors, figures of his parental figures, whatever. Like, that's where the abuse came from. And it's not a free pass, and it doesn't mean that those things didn't hurt or really didn't even change me. They absolutely changed me. But they all kind of now get to push this huge thing a little bit in a different direction, because now I get to assign all of that with something else, with a disease, with an addiction, with whatever. And in my mind and in my heart, I know that there really was a father somewhere in there. And whatever little nuggets I got, they were incredibly influential. The good was very influential, but the bad was, absolutely. But the good, it still echoes in me. I get it. There's still so much I hold on to that he gave me. And, yeah, this is definitely going to have to be a 3-parter, so. And that was the catalyst into just kind of then understanding my own anger, my own suffering. I looked into different things, different readings. I dug so deep into just my mind and the tools of different things like Buddhism and psychology. And those were the first times I really took that super serious. And that was when I took my music the most serious. The most I've ever been serious. Because I needed it. I needed it so bad in that moment. And that really was when my last project, Channel The Lotus, kind of was born. And it forever changed my life with what I did with it and how I pursued it and the realizations it gave me. But I gotta cut this out, so I will most certainly address the wraparound with the next one, because that's obviously the point of this. But I guess it's this long just to, I want to share the story, but to just emphasize the momentum in the crash that's about to happen and how beneficial it actually ended up being. And this is just my personal story to a point where so many people get to in the confusion of placing their identity in something. Because it's all shattering when you start to contemplate that. And when it all has to go away. So, we'll figure this out. We'll be back. Thanks, guys.